If there were a biopic about your life, who would you want as the cinematographer?
Welcome to Bonfire Conversations. I'm Hamid Reza Nikufar. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a very special guest, a two-time Oscar-nominated cinematographer known for his work on The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman, and most recently, Robert Eggers' highly anticipated horror film, Nosferatu, for which he's been nominated for an Oscar this year. My guest is none other than the legendary Jarin Blaschke, a cinematographer whose career has redefined modern visual storytelling. Jarin has consistently pushed the boundaries of the craft with his collaborations with Robert Eggers and his signature approach to lighting and composition, leaving a lasting impact on the industry. In today's conversation, we'll dive into his unique shooting style, discuss the creative choices behind some of the Nosferatu's most memorable shots, explore his ongoing collaborations with Robert Eggers, and end with a fun segment to get to know him better. Before we begin, please consider liking and subscribing to Bonfire Conversations. The podcast is available on YouTube and all the major podcast streaming platforms. Now, here's my conversation with Jarin Blaschke.
Congratulations for your second Oscar nomination. So this time for Nosferatu. Are you even surprised now? Or is being nominated to feel normal?
I mean, it's not normal.
Because honestly, the moment that the news came out that you and Robert Eggers are going to make Nosferatu, I was like, sure, at least it's going to get a cinematography nomination. So I was that sure.
I don't. I mean, I still feel like I feel like less of an outsider, but I still feel like a newcomer. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Even you have those, whatever these sort of signals of maybe it's sort of, I don't know. It's all. I'm not taking anything for granted. That's for sure. I mean, the first time it happens, it's like, well, okay, well, maybe it's how did it happen for this little movie and just. It feels like a fluke, so maybe a second one maybe reduces that feeling, but it's
But what's great,
crazy dream,
Yeah. What's great even more than Oscar is that how iconic your way of looking at movies has become. It's your visual style has become so distinctive that it's now iconic. For example, there's this amazing game which might be one of the most advanced and realistic looking gear ever so far called Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. And it was influenced so much by your Northman. And in the video game industry is there. And there's even a camera app called Relens, which is a very professional app for photography. Free advertisement here. And one of the filters is called the Lighthouse, and it's basically Jarin Blaschke's Lighthouse filter. So, are you aware of the influence that?
No,
the difference that your cinematography had on pop culture. So how does it feel?
I think I'm not an old man, but I'm not a young man. So, but that's just to say that, I'm not. I kind of faded out of social media, 10 years ago, and it's fine. So I think it's better too, because then if you're just kind of follow, I don't know, just do your thing, hopefully, and I'm not totally divorced from living in the world, of course, but I don't know. I guess you're probably gonna play down whatever influence you might have anyway, and you're just kind of thinking, well, I've done this, and now what's next?
Does it add pressure? Like, now in each movie, I'm like bringing something very fresh and new and sort of distinctive.
I mean, there might be a time when, you're running out of new ideas. I mean, stuff in the north. I mean, I just did low budget work for so long that I just had crazy ideas and notions that just couldn't be used. Yeah. So, and here we have some resources, and I'm curious about how to do moonlight work, but I didn't have to deal with it before because apartments in New York City didn't have to worry about it. But anyway, I just had a backlog of just curiosities that I could sort of explore, and I was too naive to sort of uh, cut them at the ankles before we got started. So yeah, there's probably some crazy stuff. I mean, I had weird ideas for Lighthouse that just didn't happen. I mean, I wanted to develop a custom developer, based on stuff I use in still photography, that has a very distinctive look. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but certainly at that point, just couldn't do it.
So I'm curious about your influences. I mean, beyond movies, what other art forms or mediums have influenced on your work?
I mean, I probably know a little more about photography than filmmaking, really. So yeah, I mean, I think my first real aesthetic love came in high school. When I discovered I took a photography class in Central Oregon. I had a photo teacher up at Central Oregon Community College, and yeah, I got to know the West Coast school, the classic West Coast school that you're taught or that you're aware of in the Western U.S. Primarily based in California, San Francisco, Carmel, whatever. So my first love was just knowing all these modernist photographers. Edward Weston, his son Brett Weston, Paul Strand, Imogen Cunningham. Ansel Adams, of course. So those are these sort of especially the more modernist stuff, where it's just you're just abstracting shapes and light. So that was kind of my first love, and maybe that got to kind of maybe show itself mostly in the Lighthouse, but yeah, lighting kind of came later, so yeah, when I entered film school, I didn't know, like anyone, you just don't see light, you just sort of take it for granted, so that took a long time for me to actually like learn how to see, and then you have to figure out like, not only can I observe these things, I know how to recreate them, so or if I do this is what happens. I remember like discovering negative fill when I was shooting like in NYU, like after I got out of film school, shooting for another film school at NYU. Like I just like figured out, if I put a black floppy over here, it's not about the light, it's about what I'm taking away. Like these step-by-step things you just learn so slowly.
Yeah. So I once asked Hans Zimmer, name dropping here, about the best way for an artist to communicate with a collaborator, like a director. And he said to avoid, and I'm quoting here, he said to avoid all that Italian mumbo jumbo and instead speak in abstract and emotional terms. And I'm curious about this. How do you communicate with, for example, Robert Eggers in that way? I mean, not in the technical form, but an emotional or abstract way to convey a sort of feeling that you both agree on.
I feel like we just kind of have similar feelings, and we don't have to talk about it much, which you're not going to enjoy with everybody. You can't make someone see something similar to yourself. It's just sort of like a relationship of any kind, So I think we kind of have similar tastes, and I think things, images work on us in similar ways, and we get similar feelings. And yeah, there's not a lot of. I enjoy not having to talk about it much. It's just sort of like, oh my God, look at this, and he'll have a feeling that I suspect is similar to how I'm feeling. Like when I had the great pleasure to introduce him to Sally Mann, like way back in the day. She had pictures of corpses rotting in a in a field somewhere that she took, on wet plate, and like I don't know, and I know he's going to file it away into his like visual library, and we're going to draw upon it someday. But yeah, it's not a lot of jibber jabber, to be honest.
Yeah. So how do you?
I mean, we're literally trade images with like, isn't that great? Yes, like look at this, wow, So, and then when I describe an idea, or he describes one to me, we sort of, I don't know, just inherently know what it's going to evoke in the other.
Like,
sorry, not a like very fascinating answer, but you just got to find your person.
No, yeah. Yeah, like when you read the script, do you come up with the look of the film, or does he talk about the idea of a film first, and I want it to look like this?
We'll share pictures, I mean, it's a lookbook. Yeah. And then, when I get a lookbook, it's not that surprising, it's like, certainly at this stage. But yeah, I mean, a lookbook, I know his tastes, and there's going to be some continuity and consistency and sort of the mood of the images. But yeah, a lookbook also for me is probably just I'm just going to learn more about the architecture, and the
Yeah.
world and costume and faces that he wants. Like sometimes he'll just find he'll just have a page in a lookbook with just like faces of the extras, and that conveys something. So yeah, it's more the world building that I'm going to take mostly from these lookbooks. But yeah, we're not pontificating on, verbosely on, what images mean or, any of that.
The There's a good lesson in the way you and Robert was first connected. I mean, I think during an interview, he mentioned that he saw your name online and recognized it as a prestigious Eastern European name and reached out to you.
Yeah.
And beyond that,
I was a kid sleeping on a couch, in a friend's apartment. So yeah, but I had a Prussian name, so here we are. Look at us now, So
the funny thing was that I was listening to your interview with Roger Deakins, and at the moment Robert said that, he was like, "I knew that I should have changed my name."
Oh yeah.
So there's a good lesson here that you built a strong presence in the online communities, and even asking for suggestions on filters for your upcoming projects. I think that really paid off. I mean, being present in the online community. I mean, a lot of people are just like avoiding that. I mean, you mentioned that you're not on social medias, but
I'm not really on social media. I just want to know. There's like technical stuff, and I think probably the most satisfying place for me to explore is really like fundamentals, which is photography. Yeah. It's not really filmmaking, because I think filmmaking is like, well, you have these are the tools you use, and these are the stands that those tools go on, and you cut light in this way, and it's it's all kind of like, it's a little bit out of the box, and I just inherently want to buck against that, So probably where I can explore is just looking at photography at large, and we have almost 200 years of it now, or 190 years of it. So that's a lot to pull from, then you have the other arts, but like literally, technically, you can, you have from lenses to, developing formulae to, you have all kinds of stuff that's just kind of untapped, So I'm going to go on a photography forum, and I'm going to just ask around, it's just a much broader viewpoint than just, whatever film stocks we got in the single bath that's given to us, and, the labs that are remaining. And, so I'm going to try to push against the constraints.
Yeah.
If it, when it can be used for a film,
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I love about your work is your use of silhouette. And it's always so precise that we instantly recognize who we're looking at, and it adds so much impact. The other day, I was rewatching Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Indiana Jones' silhouette is used masterfully to introduce him as a larger-than-life character that later on in complex and crowded action scenes, we can easily recognize him. And in each of your movies...
You put your movie poster in your movie, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I can precisely pinpoint the perfect usage of silhouettes in your movies. And how do you approach using silhouettes and in your cinematography? I mean, in Nosferatu, most of the times we see Orlok in a silhouette. We don't see him complete so much. And how do you approach that? And how do you decide to show a character? When do you decide to show a character like that, for example?
I mean, silhouettes kind of. I don't do simple lighting on that. It requires a lot to make it work. I guess I like it to be visually simple, meaning that, there's like one source in a room, it's a window, and maybe you put a lamp on if you want like a color mix near a character or something. But generally it's like, you don't have windows fighting each other on both sides of the room, or someone's between windows. They're going to be near one, and, just do one thing as well as you can. If there's some candles in the room, they're going to tend to be in a cluster over here. They're not going to just be mushy and all over the place. So our top light, it'll be here and then it'll fall off in the walls, and then you'll kind of go between this one and go dark before the other one. They're not going to be, heard Chivo use a term, I've been told that Chivo has a term called, a light sandwich, which I'd really, Rob and I use a lot with affection. It's just like, like pick one and do it well. So a lot of the silhouettes come out of, where's the lamp in the room? And maybe it's a somewhat complex scene, or there's like 3 characters in a space. There's a oneer, and, I can't cheat it that much. So there's a silhouette in the foreground because, they need to have, I can build depth in the scene of the lights next to Lily Rose in bed, and then, Doctor and, Harding are in the foreground. Well, that's just, I don't want another lamp next to them. I just want the simple thing, which is one well-placed lamp. And that just means these guys are silhouette. One is a little bit more open, the other one isn't. And then, you have Lily Rose kind of, very brightly lit in the back, but that graphically that works, so.
Yeah. I mean, in Nosferatu, I saw that video that you mentioned that when we see Orlok, the fireplace was supposed to be on the side, and you asked
Initially,
that fireplace
be
behind him, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, like changing the set in order to
but it's one fireplace. I'm not adding a fireplace.
It's just changing the position of it.
Put the one fireplace in the perfect spot,
Yeah. Wow. So, when you're not watching a movie in theater, how do you watch them on? What's your setup? I asked that because I saw Nosferatu in Athens, and the projection didn't feel quite right, and the contrast seemed off. And then a week later, I watched the digital version and 4K, and it was masterpiece.
Well, this is the pain, right? Is that
you can't go to any theater.
It's you're rolling the dice in a theater, and really the tonal range in a regular digital optical projection theater is, I'm just going to say, it's inferior to a good screen at home, which is not what you want to say for movie theaters. At the same time, you are going to have variation in homes and all of that, and it's a certain size, and it's not immersive, and you're going to be interrupted, and you have all of those things. That sucks. But then you also have Dolby Vision, which is calibrated. It's the only theater where I know that what I graded is going to be on any Dolby Vision screen, like exactly what we did, the work we did. The months of grading we did are going to be perfectly represented there. There's no like dim bulb, there's nothing. And the black is black, and the white is where I like it. Tops out 130 nits. I don't need any more than that. So that's a heck of a theatrical experience, but it's, a lot of times the kind of washed out digital optical projection, all your colors are flat. There's no like dimensionality. That's frustrating. Yeah. I hope we go to kind of laser almost universally soon, because I miss prints, so we can't have prints, then, like prints are soft. They're not like, the information is there. They're low res, or like, what is it? Technically 1.5K, but like the color is so complex, and the tonality is so rich, even though it's slightly soft and out of focus. And then you have DI, where it's like very sharp and clear, but then it's just kind of bathwater, So Dolby Vision kind of bring these two together. And I just didn't add Dolby Vision, but I'll say it over and over again,
Yeah. And do you have a special setup for yourself for when you're watching?
I'm a vagabond. I don't even have I haven't had I bought furniture for the first time in my life like 4 months ago. So we'll get to the, yes, I have a very sweet monitor, but it's still a, whatever, 40-inch monitor. That's it, because I haven't had a home. So I'm just a hobo, but I'm working on it, and we'll have a good setup. Hopefully in a year or two.
Hopefully. Yeah. So my favorite scene in Nosferatu is the Crossroads, and it was the most unsettling part, at least for me, and the feeling of loneliness and danger of being exposed in a crossroads, plus the nightmarish theme of the film. It was crazy. So can you tell me how you approached that scene?
I mean, it's graphically strong because it's all it's a canyon essentially, right, with all the trees, and the location took months to find. You're trying the right one where it's narrow enough to feel like you're in a canyon and be claustrophobic, but it's not so narrow that the leaves or the branches rather, were crossing overhead and were blocking all the light and you couldn't light it. That combination alone, that'll burn through 5 locations, and then, all the others were, finding a crossroads that was perfectly straight. And these are just logging roads somewhere in Czech Republic, so, and it goes straight and it doesn't do a little bend or any of that, and it has lighting positions hidden in the woods. It's not just one crossroads. There's actually crossroads after that you don't see. And you just, you park your lift in there and then you arm out right over, and had to have so many requirements, so many specific requirements. It took such a long time to find. Why I'm senile? What's your question? I'm just babbling.
We basically answered it. I asked how you approached that scene. And was it challenging? Because that was one of the scenes that I was like, oh man, there must be an explanation of feeling here between Jarin and Robert. Like, I want it to feel like this and that.
I mean, it's just a big, tall, scary forest, and you have, and the trunks you place at a low level. Like, you need to see them. I like having a detail, like touch black in the shot. Every shot there's a black in the movie. That's important to me. That's just like my photography teacher when I was 15 years old on the Butte in Central Oregon, where he taught photography. Is like, always have a black somewhere in your print. That's just stuck with me. Thank you, George. And I apply that to this day. But yeah, anyway, the trunks need to have like just a trace of definition, but they still have to be graphic and strong.
Yeah.
You can't let them go black because then you're just kind of technically not doing your job. But like, just what's the threshold of detail where you still get that feeling? It's still impenetrable enough. And I just learned a lot from lighting exteriors in the Northman over and over again, a much larger scale than this film. So I learned a lot of things technically there too, and even just down to lighting ratios, just like fundamentals, and you tweak these, like fundamentals, you can just tweak for entire career,
Yeah. And then after that was the Courtyard of Orlok and meeting him for the first time. And it was unsettling as well. And what's working on in that scene is unexplainable details, especially where Orlok is placed in the scene and how we see him through like the lens. It's just so nightmarish. Like, I just saw him being here and he's there, and sometimes
when you go inside,
yeah. And I think the subconsciously we're like tricked, like our mind is like, yo, this is real, but there's something different here. And
little things, or in the POV, just in the castle in general, going, not just between the objective and subjective. It's probably just going between Orlok's point of view and Thomas's point of view, and Orlok sort of Thomas-ing things through Orlok, and that whole thing, and Orlok sort of controlling the camera, which is sort of we're involved too, because we're looking at something in a very like, it's almost like our head is being grabbed and like making us look where we don't want to look, and then just like Thomas is made to walk down that hallway into that room, but it's kind of inexplicable. It's like a nightmare.
Exactly. And I was curious that it's like a nightmare. And I was curious that if you ever get inspiration from your dreams, nightmares.
Oh. No, for me, it's like, usually it's just like thoughts I have. Usually it's right before sleep.
Yeah.
And then I'm up and I got to turn on the lamp. Sometimes I'll have, in pre-production, sometimes I'll just have a notepad by the bed. It'll be even not even just like creative stuff or how to shoot a scene, which can happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably half of it is just like how to achieve something technically. It'll just kind of pop in there, right before bed. Yeah, it's not even like the shower or long walks. It's like right before bed. I tend to get them.
Yeah. And when you're dreaming, is your dream shot by Jarin Blaschke, Oscar-nominated cinematographer? Is it perfect?
I mean, I remember I had none of my dreams had color. And so I was like, I remember being 19 years old. I was like living in Brooklyn. I remember waking up and it was like the first dream I ever had where like in color. Not that the dreams were
Yeah.
black and white, but it's only when it was like I was 19 before I had a dream where like color was a feature in my dreams, actually. Kind of, just a random thing that just popped in my head right now.
My friend saw Nosferatu and we were talking about it, and he remembered the movie being black and white. And he was like telling, "Oh, that's great, black."
Yeah.
Dude, there are colors there. Yeah. Next question is like, what do you think will be the next big revolution in cinematography, considering the use of, for example, game engines, AI, and are you planning to be a part of it?
I'm sure you can imagine my answer. I'm not. Yeah, I don't. I'm not like a toys person. So I'd rather just let my subconscious kind of spit things out on occasion and follow that. So I was actually asked to be part of it. I mean, maybe when I learn more about it, I'll get into it, but it's not very appealing. Maybe I'm just having prejudice, but yeah, I don't know.
Whatever you're doing
it's hard to imagine a more satisfying way to work than this.
Wow.
And
wow. That's great.
Involving, I don't know, vast databases and quote unquote AI. I don't know. It's just not right now.
Yeah. So before we end this, I want to kick off a new segment to the podcast. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm kind of a little nervous. So I call it Penny for Your Thoughts. And I ask you a series of questions and get a quick answer in order to get to know you better. So first off, is that a good name, by the way? Should I keep it?
Let's do Penny for Our Thoughts, and then I can tell you.
Yeah. So
that's the only way to learn what it is, So
yeah, it's not
nail me a penny though.
But yeah, many pennies because multiple.
Sure,
so,
there you
go. First off, if there were a biopic about your life, who would you want as the cinematographer?
Wow. Look, if I ever directed a movie, it'd probably be Darius Kanji.
Oh yeah, awesome. Then it's gonna be about your life. So you just
he's
sit
pretty
down
good.
and watch it.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, I heard of him. Yeah. So, in your opinion, what is the ultimate example of perfect cinematography in film history? You can dodge this. You just should answer it.
I mean, use of camera, it's kind of like, look, I know you're going to make fun of arty-farty people like us, but like, The Mirror, Tarkovsky's The Mirror is like the most inspiring use of camera.
Absolutely.
And it's like, there's not even a story in there. It's just sort of vignettes of stuff, but I'm just like transfixed just because, that really changed how I see how our cameras could be used.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, so to speak, as far as, just ping pong shooting. I think it began with Gordon Willis shooting Manhattan, and just that was the introduction. Like, here's a just talking heads movie, or could be, we're just going to have people, in and out of a shot in a hallway. It was like standing in an empty hallway, and it kind of comes out of the bathroom and crosses, and you'll see them again. And that was sort of the beginning. And then once I saw The Mirror, it was like, this is just like dream logic, and I'm in love with this.
Wow, yeah, that's a great answer. Tarkovsky is the best answer to any film related question.
Yeah, maybe not a wrong comment, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, you can be the cinematographer of any film you'd like. What film would that be?
Right now, my mood would be, I don't know what this, I haven't seen in a while. Maybe this, I don't know this is a schmaltzy movie, but I would, The English Patient. I would really like to have shot that.
Yeah. Great. So
what's what popped in my head today, right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Romantic movie, unabashed,
Yeah. You totally deserve it after a dark horror.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, what's a piece of advice you once received that turned out to be completely wrong?
Diversify.
And how did you learn
Just be
about
yourself,
that?
yeah. It's like all my guts were against it, but it's like, well, you need to show you can do this, you need to show you can do that. And, it's as far as like, securing yourself enough work to be stable, but then you don't really have an identity and there's no reason anyone should hire you. You're not, I mean, maybe if
The
you're,
guy.
yeah, like even when I did like corporate interviews, and I shot those for years, I'd shoot like hospital videos and shit.
Yeah.
Like I found, and I only had, you have a talking head, you have one chimera of a certain size at an LED like this size, and that's it, right? And then and I'm just shuffling around these very few variables, and and whatever the background is, usually it's a hospital, like how to, just like, or in the middle of the hospital, I'm like taking bolts out of the ceiling and stuff. And anyway, I'm just like, even that stuff, I was trying to find my way to shoot, a talking head,
Yeah.
and I came up with my method, within these very strict parameters. So, anyway, yeah, as far as, but then again, I guess I was shooting corporate videos, so I guess that is diversifying. But as far as like the film work, yeah, make sure you have a comedy, make sure you have a horror, make sure you have, bright, dark, big, small, but I think, just putting yourself in your work and being singular and irreplaceable is like critical.
Do you remember who gave you that advice?
You hear it from various places, you hear it from,
Was it?
like my dad's my biggest proponent, I mean, I have a great family in that regard, but, yeah, I probably heard it from him early on. I heard it from girlfriends. I heard it from,
Wow.
all kinds of people, just get your shit together and get a job, so, but instead I'm really delusional and I'm very stubborn. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't take that advice. So what's the
you pay the
strangest?
price. You do. Let's not pretend you don't,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the short term, it's like long term, trading your long term for short term. So.
Wow. All right. So, what's the strangest or most unexpected source of inspiration for your work?
It's kind of the
One
day to
that
day. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, Rob's a big cinephile.
Yeah.
I'm a more moderate one, just because a lot of times I'd rather just look out the window than watch a meh movie, and so I kind of like look to and that's really kind of a stupid thing to say, but I'll just draw inspiration from, I have this view of New York outside and I'm studying it and I'm filing stuff away, and you can, people watch movies and you can get that same thing, but I get a little more from the real life, or even just feeling, I can get feeling from abstract art, I can get something from Franz Klein that you wouldn't think would ever apply to anything I do, but it files away and it might at some point.
Yeah. Great. So, if you could wake up tomorrow with a completely new artistic skill, what would it be?
I love to draw. I really enjoy storyboards, but I'm not that great.
Oh.
Yeah, it would be, I don't know, maybe it's calligraphy, actually.
Wow.
I'm really into typefaces. I'm not sure. That's just my today answer.
So, what's the best cinematography you've seen in a film recently?
That is really hard to say. I'm revisiting a lot of old favorites lately, so I'm not going to say anything new. I'm showing I'm just showing some favorites to friends of mine lately. So I don't. So yeah, it's all the old favorites. Like I got to got to show them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You start a relationship with someone and you like connecting over like favorite movies and stuff, and
Exactly.
And for her, it's like stories. For me, it's like, well, if you're gonna hang out with me, then you got to know your cinematographers, and so so you do the basics first. So it's like, I saw Godfather 2, for example, recently, and that's that's his best lighting, hands down.
Wow.
But that's just a whatever. That's no secret, that movie. you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just watching a lot of stuff like that. So it's hard to say like
Yeah.
something fresh right now.
Yeah. So what kind of music do you listen to, and does it influence your work?
Um, I mean, Rob plays music constantly, you know, if it's either on set or in his office. So I'll be introduced to a lot of like the feeling of the film, just like hearing it echoed down the production office hallway.
Yeah.
So that probably influences my work more than, you know, anything I'm playing. But I mean, I'm pretty omnivorous. You know, I'll listen for anything from bluegrass to, you know, classical, you know, to I really would like to know more jazz. Actually, that might be my next project. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty pop, you know, yeah, bluegrass. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of anything but like pop country and show tunes are rough for me. No, but other than that, I'm pretty open.
I was just imagining you listening to country music while shooting Nosferatu in
Not
the
that really, but
headphones.
yeah, I do like some bluegrass in the right setting. So
So, all right, before we wrap it up, one last thing.
sure.
So, recently it was announced that Robert Eggers' next film is Werewolf, and you've mentioned it's going to be very different. And I
Yes.
know you can't reveal too much right now, but since we're all so hyped about it, is
Sure.
there anything you could share to make us even more excited?
We don't know what we're doing yet. We're exploring it. So, and for us, it's shooting relatively soon. You know, like late in the year. But for us, that's a pretty quick R&D. And then we'll see what they agree on. I got some R&D to do, and I don't even know if these are good ideas yet. So I can't really talk about them because I don't even know if we're gonna do them. I just got a lot of wacky ideas I need to test, and we don't know so I can't talk to others before we even talk about them amongst ourselves
Yeah.
and figure out what we're doing. You know, that's
Yeah.
definitely cart before the horse.
A Moonlight, I guess, in that movie, right?
You'd think, but it'd be nice to do it in a way that I haven't done yet. So, or at least hone what I have to the point that it's almost something different.
Yeah. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Jarin, you're a superstar. I love the way you envision stories and bring them to life. Your work shares both dreams and nightmares with us so perfectly. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to see your next film.
Well, thanks for having me. Flattered
Yeah,
to be
it
here.
was so
Thank
great.
you. Yeah.
Awesome. It was a pleasure, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. Likewise. Thanks.